Welcome to the Lifestyle Builders Podcast, show 34. In our last episode, we talked about working on your business versus in it. In today's episode, we're chatting with guest Rachel Pedersen on the importance of creating relationships and getting to know your customers.
Relationships are something that a lot of people want to bypass. I'm sure we've all seen this.
Yes.
Where someone builds a product and it's like, who are you going to reach with this? And they're like, everyone needs this. Everyone wants this. Or, they have no idea about who's going to benefit from it or who they want to serve. And they don't take the time to ask or connect or build a Facebook group. Those are things I know you guys have been great about doing as you build out this online platform. Something I've always been really passionate about. And I think relationship makes it more fun.
All right, you guys, before we dive in, a little bit more about our special guest, Rachel. Rachel Pedersen is a social media strategist recognized by Content Marketing Institute as one of the most influential online marketers. Rachel went from a college dropout single mother on welfare to a successful and highly sought after social media strategist and educator. She has been featured on top publications such as Huffington Post, Cosmopolitan, The Daily Mail, and more, as well as on top podcasts such as Entrepreneur on Fire. Rachel is the founder of Social Media United, a leading online university for those aspiring to become successful social media managers and strategists. Her students have each had their own tremendous success, securing clients, growing their skills, and leaving their 9-to-5s.
All right. Full disclosure, we actually recorded an episode with Rachel a couple of months ago, and we screwed up the recording.
Yep, complete tech fail. We were devastated. It was an amazing episode.
Yeah, so it was really good. It was actually right after we got back from Funnel Hacking Live. She had just spoken at that event, and she talked a lot about this. So we were so upset after that.
Yep.
But I'll tell you, this interview, I think, actually blows that one away.
Well, we talked about it afterwards. We were like, oh my God, that was so much better.
And, it's cool because we talk about relationships and all of that. But a lot of what we get into, which was kind of unexpected, was the growth that you go through as you grow your business as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And she has just recently had her third child. And we talk about some of the transitions and shifts that she's done in her business, and then what we've seen and what we've experienced as well.
Yeah, it was a great episode, and some awesome quotes in this one too. I got goosebumps after one of her quotes.
Yeah, well, and Rachel's someone, we've been connected with for a couple of years, and we've been able to see her growth, and she's one of the people that we really align with, and, her integrity and her transparency is right up there with, what we do and what we believe in. So really looking forward to sharing this episode with you guys. I know you're going to get a lot out of it.
Yeah, enjoy.
Relationships are something that a lot of people want to bypass. I'm sure we've all seen this.
Yes.
Where someone builds a product and it's like, who are you going to reach with this? And they're like, everyone needs this. Everyone wants this. Or, they have no idea about who's going to benefit from it or who they want to serve. And they don't take the time to ask or connect or build a Facebook group. Those are things I know you guys have been great about doing as you build out this online platform. Something I've always been really passionate about. And I think relationship makes it more fun.
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys, I haven't really shared this a lot yet, but I'm totally open to talking about it. One of the craziest things when, at Funnel Hacking Live, I received that 2cc award was that when I got up there, it wasn't that amazing feeling that I was thinking it would be. I was thinking I'd walk up there and be like, ta-da, I have made it. Everything is great. But it was kind of like Michelle Lewis gave me a great example, a great metaphor for it, or a great analogy. And it's like when you walk up a mountain, you climb a mountain, and you're on this amazing journey, and you get to the very top by yourself, and you're like, there's nothing on the top of the mountain. Whoa. And so one of the things that I quickly dove into after FHL was like, how do I strengthen my relationships? How do I make sure I'm bringing people up the mountain with me? How do I make sure my team feels like they're right alongside of me and we're having fun? And the journey is fun with people. Like there were moments where I definitely lost sight of that along the way, but thankfully people always remind me because no one around me thinks I'm very cool. So they're like, okay, you need to calm down. And
well, and that's why people are always, they're often surprised that when they come to work with us for business, the first thing we talk about is them, like their life, their aspirations, why they do it. And then also like who they are as a person. And like one of the big things we've gotten really clear in the last couple of years is what our values are and who we want to associate with.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
What we find time and time again is that especially when people jump in, they're inundated with information. Like you got to build a list. You got to do all this stuff. And so many people are so focused on the numbers and the volume that they skip over, especially early on, building the relationships. And even if it's just one at a time, which when you start, that's what it has to be. But so many people want to skip that. And like, I remember a little bit after we first met, you were kind of figuring out, like, do I serve business owners? Do I serve social media managers? You had a webinar, and I think you had like 10 people on there. Like, everyone goes through this, right? Even though you get a lot of people on your webinars now. And I was on there, and I was just asking questions and getting engagement. And I think you maybe had like 1 sale or 2 sales off of there. But you didn't let that discourage you. It was like, that's the step I go through. And I think a lot of people just want to skip to the end, and they don't realize
where
that
they have a webinar
along the way,
thousands of people, and they're making hundreds of sales off the webinar.
Yeah, but it's all those steps along the way that not only build who you are, but it builds the business and the relationships that then take you to every one of those next levels that come.
Yeah, and I'm just going to jump in quickly here because there might be people listening or watching that don't know what a 2 Comma Club award is. So if you are familiar with Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels, he has an award for anyone that, what is it? You get to $1 million with one of your funnels, right? So Rachel walked on stage and got that award, which was pretty freaking amazing. And watching you on stage when you presented this year was just like, I got so excited, and I was like screaming, and I was like, I know her, because you rocked it on stage. And what I loved was what you talked about. And that was a lot of what we talk about too. It's not just about getting that 2 Comma Club award. It's not just about climbing the mountain by yourself. It's about building the empire and like bringing all the other people up around you while you do that. And I loved that message because I think there are so many people who get so caught up with, I want to make $1 million, and I want to get a 2 Comma Club award, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And what they forget is why they're doing it in the first place, and their family, their spouse, their friends, the people that they're serving, their customers. Like, you have to keep all of that in mind while you're reaching for those huge goals, because otherwise, like you said, you get to the top of the mountain and you realize that everyone else stopped walking alongside of you halfway up. And it's not really as fun when you get up there and you're all by yourself.
Absolutely. And the other thing that that experience taught me was, okay, so this is really cruel and funny timing. Right before they present the 2 Comma Club awards, Russell decides to reveal that there's a better award. A bigger award. Like, so he reveals that there's the 2CCX award, which is for doing $10 million in your funnels. And he reveals it right before he presents everyone with their 2CC award. And I was like, that's just mean. Because now I'm looking at the 2CCX and you get this like Super Bowl diamond encrusted ring. And I'm like, oh. And Paul said the second he saw that that award was unveiled, he was like, oh, Rachel's not going to be happy about this. But now that I've, experienced what it's like to do $1 million in your business and be like, oh, that's cool. It's kind of cool. Then you suddenly say, like, what is that next step? And let me tell you, it can't be about the money and it can't be about the award. So one of the things that Paul and I have been going through is figuring out, okay, what does this next phase look like? What if we aren't a super profitable company, but we're hiring people from around the world who normally would be struggling to make ends meet? Yeah. What if we have an awesome team? What if we have fun? What if we are profitable, but not like, 80% profit margins because we're putting people first? Yeah. What if we do have this massive team retreat and it's life-changing for everyone? So we've been going through this process of figuring out what does that next phase look like. And what it comes down to for me is like, number one, I want to make a huge impact this year with relationships. And number two, I want to have a ton of fun. And as crazy as that is, that's going to get us into the 2CCX faster than me trying to make that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's funny when people are just focused on the money piece, they end up forgetting the other stuff. But when you focus on the other stuff with some intentionality around how you're going to make money from it, it tends to come together. It's not to say there's not hard work or whatever along the way, but like you said, when it's about impact and when you're about serving people, sure, we all need to make a certain amount of money to cover ourselves, take care of our family, roof over our heads. But once you get beyond that, and every entrepreneur goes through that at different phases, it's like, okay, what's the bigger thing? What's whether it's the legacy or whether it's just how do I help more people? How do I get that internal fulfillment inside of me? Because like you said, it's not going to be just standing at the top of the mountain. It's got to be from something else that really drives each of us.
Yeah,
absolutely. I don't know if you guys remember that dinner I had with Gary Vaynerchuk where he yelled at me.
Yeah, I do.
I'm so glad that they edited out the part where I went into the ugly cry in front of everyone at this dinner. It's on his vlog. But when he brought that up, the whole idea of like, he goes, it's arbitrary, Rach. And it's like, it's so true. And so getting the 2CCX was like this setting point where I was like, okay, now I want the 2CC, getting the 2CC was like, now I want 2 commas in my relationships. I want people to be like, it's amazing, comma, and it's wonderful, comma, and it's fun. Like
I love that.
It's been really cool. I should trademark that.
You totally should.
So it's been crazy though.
Yeah, and I think that comes back to me where I'm seeing a lot of people getting in and following all these influencers and listening to what all these people are saying, and they're forgetting about the one word that is really important to me, and I know is really important to you and a lot of other people out there, and that is doing everything you do with integrity. So, making it about the people instead of always about the dollar signs, and making sure that whatever you're doing is serving. Like, obviously, yes, we need to all take care of ourselves. And we've talked about it before. One of our missions and values is to make the impact in your family before you go out and try to make the huge impact in everyone else's lives, because you've got to take care of you and you've got to take care of the people closest to you before you can go out and try to take care of everyone else. And I think that the next step after that becomes you have to take care of your customers. You have to treat people with integrity. You have to make sure that you're always growing and learning and moving on to the next thing that you can better serve them doing.
I was going to say, and I think it's such a cool thing now. So when we talked to you a couple months ago, you had 2 kids. And then now you have 3 kids. And a little bit of what we talked about in the past was you used to work a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I would joke that if I got up at 2 a.m. and I got online, I wasn't sure if you were still up, if you had just woken up. And then if I'd go to sleep and I'd get back up, I'm like, did she sleep at all or was she up all night? And what's cool now is that you're actually going through some changes and pivots too, and focusing more on life, but also saying, how do I take care of my customers, my staff, everyone else? So you've got a lot more, I think, integration and focus on what's important, which is awesome to see.
Thank you. It was really interesting because I thought there was going to be this like transition period where it would be like, okay, so I'll slowly move away from working 100 hours a week. I can slowly, nope. It was like I had the baby and something shifted. I think it had to, as crazy as that is, because I realized, oh my gosh, I am probably killing myself, being dead serious. Like, I was at a place where I remember I pulled 3 all-nighters in a row to get this big project done. And I started seeing things on the sides of my vision. And I was like, this is a really good sign this isn't healthy. Mm-hmm. And I had so many people in my life who were like, Rachel, we're actually worried about you. Like, this isn't sustainable. You can't keep living like this. And there were honestly so many times where I put off friends and family because I was like, no, I'm building my business. I'm building my business. And the moment I had Dominic, it was like, okay, you've built your business. Mm-hmm. You have to bring family into this. And so it was like an abrupt stop. It felt like I hit the brakes going 90 miles an hour, and I had to figure things out. And thankfully, my husband had just hired a few key team members that we needed in the months before we had Dominic. And literally, you guys, these people stepped in and gave me confidence that I think I can work 40 to 60 hours a week. That's amazing.
I love that.
Well, I was going to say, and so many people, like, if we all want to continue growing our businesses as well as growing our lives, there's a certain point where we've all got to get there, because there's only so many hours in a day. There's only so much effectiveness we can have. And to truly be leaders, we've got to be able to realize where should we be focused, and then developing the people around us to be able to help us out and also help them.
Absolutely. There's one key team member. I'm just going to shout her out on here. Jessney Skoda. You guys know her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we love her.
Oh, she is someone who, the moment that Paul brought her on in a bigger level or on a bigger scale, she just blossomed. And that was one of the most rewarding feelings for two reasons. Number one, if she heard me say, I'm stressed about this, she'd say, hey, I just hopped on Google and YouTube and watched all the trainings on this that I could find, and I can do it. Do you want me to do it? And I'm like, yeah. It's amazing. But also just to see the growth. I mean, that's just one example of a team member, but just to see someone taking ownership and building their confidence and their skills, and just it was amazing for me. And that was one of those moments where I was like, oh, I'm bringing someone up the mountain. Let's do this. You're growing. This is so cool to watch. One of the best investments ever, to see someone else perform and succeed and feel great about life.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. And it's serving your team members too. It's not just all about you all the time. And I think it is easy to forget that when you start out and you're a solopreneur and you're doing everything all on your own, and you get that like, I am superwoman. But as you start to bring people on, you're serving them by letting them figure things out, by letting them grow, by letting them take initiative, and they might do it better than you. Like I've found that out in our offline businesses many times, because I used to do all this stuff, and Tom's like, what if we just let one of our employees do that? What if we bump him up and make him a manager, and we'll teach him how to do that stuff? And he is way better at it than I am. Like, he's saving us money every year because he is better at knowing how to order alcohol. And I was like, man, why didn't we do this years ago? But it was like, it had to be that shift where it was, okay, someone else can do what you do, and they can probably do it better, which will then serve you better. It will serve your business better. It will serve them better because they can grow and they can learn new things and get better skills. So yeah, I love that.
One of the funny things too, if you're a solopreneur and you're watching this and you're like, yeah, but I still have to do everything. There's that phase. We've all been through that phase where first you're building. And so you're doing a lot of things that aren't in your zone of genius. And I remember, so you guys know I've balanced the agency and the university. Very tricky balance. And taking on the clients in the agency side, I was always feeling like I had to do everything. And I was doing a lot of my clients a major disservice because I'm not as responsive. I might be working on the campaigns and getting great results, but am I going to respond for 2 days? I don't know, because I get so many messages. And so I brought my agency team in on some of our new clients that we've been working on. And I'm like, I should have been out of this process so long ago, because you guys are making this look easy. You're making it look better. I'm really only good at like 3 things in the world. And it's like speaking, strategy, and cooking. And that's it. So I'm going to focus on 2 of those 3 and hire someone who's probably even better at cooking. But like, seriously, that was amazing for me. And it kind of challenged the way I saw relationships, like that whole idea of trust and integrity and finding people you can trust is one of the most rewarding processes ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's so interesting about that too is that we always think that we're the ones that has to do it. Right. And especially it's so hard
especially if you have control issues like me.
and like you said, we all go through the phase early on where it takes a lot of time and we got to put in the long hours and we have to do everything. But most of us can't recognize that we've got to shift out of that phase. Mm-hmm. And even if we recognize it,
we never know when to do it.
We don't have the support to do that. And, time and time again, I mean, we've seen ourselves, we've seen it with other entrepreneurs and with our clients. When you get some of that outside perspective and you can start to realize that you don't have to do it all, and then you can get a process in place, hire the right team members, it's almost like magic when it works. Like it never seems like it's going to work when you're doing it, but when stuff gets done, it gets done better and you really didn't take a big part in it. It's like, wow, I want more of that.
Yes. It's addicting. You're like, okay, what else can I do? What else can I do? Let's do more.
I've got a question, because there's a lot of people today that aren't really focusing on relationships.
Yes.
So what kind of guidance would you give people that haven't really focused on it in the past? Maybe they've got a large following or a large list, but they're getting the couple of likes. What recommendations do you have for people to start building those relationships and start re-engaging the people they've connected with?
Ooh, great. Okay, so I love that question. So I've had a couple of points where I would drop the ball, at different points in this career. Let's say, for example, I remember when I had my list and I wasn't emailing it at all, and a few months went by, and I still remember the day where I was like, I have a list. I should probably email it. Otherwise, this isn't a relationship. This is really not fair of me to just expect that they're going to buy my stuff when I release it. And plus, like, I don't know who these people are. I want to know them. I want them to know who I am. And I still remember I just apologized to them. As funny as that is, I said, you guys, I'm sorry. I haven't been emailing you. I've been totally neglecting you. That's my mistake. I want to serve you guys. I want to deliver value. I want you to know my voice. I want you to, hear from me on a weekly basis at least, so that you know what I'm about, what's going on, so I can serve you. And that apology resonated so well. I remember that was one of the emails I got the most responses to. And it was really cool to see that people recognize, wow, when someone says I'm wrong, I think it's really powerful. It shows like, I'm going to take ownership for this. The biggest thing I recommend is if you're going to try to get on board with it, don't do it because you heard someone say you have to do it.
Yep.
You have to want it. It's like a diet. If you hear someone say like, this diet will help you to lose 10 pounds in a week, you're like, okay, cool, I'll try it. But guess what? You haven't addressed the issue and you don't really want that lifestyle. So if you really want to build that relationship again, it's coming from like the core of who you are. You have that sick feeling like, I need to talk to them, but I don't know how to start. And now it's awkward. Apologize and just say like, I want to connect with you guys. So I remember I did that once in my email list. I did it once in my Facebook group when things started to die out. It's died out lately because I was in my 3rd trimester of pregnancy and I was like, I can't care about everything right now. I'm going to just ignore my big group for a little bit. But then I just started to show up again. And it doesn't happen overnight. That's one of the biggest things that people need to recognize. When you neglect relationships, there's trust that's broken. And I know people think it's just online. That doesn't mean anything. But the reality is every interaction on social media in a Facebook group, you're building trust. And once that trust is lost, when you're not showing up and you're not delivering value, you have to rebuild it kind of from scratch, as crazy as that is. I've been through that process. And now I'm actually going through it in like my personal life where I'm rebuilding relationships with family where I've ignored their texts for 6 months. Like, hey, I'm sorry. Do you want to get coffee next week? Let's, it's something that it doesn't happen right away. So if your list, if your group, if your social presence isn't responding immediately, it's because they need to see that consistency of you showing up now.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, it goes to the same thing with transparency, authenticity, all of that. Like those are now big buzzwords and everyone's like, well, you got to be transparent and authentic. But our radars are up so much right now.
Yes.
That, like if you're not truly authentic with what you're trying to say, if you're not truly doing it for the right reasons, most people are going to detect that and they're never even going to want to establish that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I've seen it time and time again. Someone will try to like copy what we do or take like a message that somebody else worked or did and worked successfully. And then they go and do it and it doesn't work. And it's like, well, clearly it's not the message, but it's in the intent and people can read into that.
Yeah.
So like when we end up like, let's say we bring a new client in or whatever, so much of the reason for that isn't any of the tactics or stuff that we use, but it's us. And I think a lot of people forget that.
Yeah, you have to be you. You can't go out and pretend to be somebody else just because what they're doing is working. It's not. People can see that. Like, oh, they're just doing what so-and-so over there is doing. You can take their style, maybe add a little bit of what they're doing, but make it yours, And I think people forget that because everything is, oh, take my this and use it in your business. Or, oh, sign up for this and I'll teach you exactly the steps that I used. And everyone's trying to do what other people have done, but instead of making it their own, they're following exactly. And it's like, okay, well, that might not work for you. You have to make it you, and it has to fit your business and it has to fit your style,
Yeah. So with templates and swipe files and tactics, I will say tactics are something I have a love-hate relationship with. I can appreciate tactics and say, ooh, that's good. But the thing about tactics, if you don't understand the underlying strategy, the underlying relationship, all of this, it's nothing. It's the same thing as when people say, like, I had this 6-figure launch and how I did this, how I built my email list. I hate when I see this. How I built my email list to 3 million without spending any money on ads, blah, 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 blah. And it's a tactic, and they don't share all the stuff that went into building up that opportunity. Tactics are great. They're fun. But the biggest thing that I want people to understand is you're going to have to make them your own. You're going to have to understand the strategy. And usually the strategy is this simple. Be a good person, be nice to people, talk to people, you know, like, oh my gosh, it's social.
Tell them good products, not, you know, just stuff you pulled from all over the place and threw together.
Totally. But it's very difficult to fake vulnerability and transparency now. And I'll catch myself doing it once in a while where I'll try to create that vulnerability in a moment. And it's like, this really sucks. This is really bad. I can't put this out there. This is so forced. I'll come back when I'm feeling transparent, you know?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, one of the biggest things I know that I've done is when we get into those moments, like if we've had a tough time or there's a big business mistake, just capture it vocally, like, or make a video and be like, this is how I'm feeling. Like, it's not that there's going to be an intention to use that right now, but it's like, let me capture that moment so that if I'm telling a story later or if something else is going on, I can go back and really be in that. And especially because it's sometimes tough to be vulnerable when you're going through it, you know, but if it's something that you're capturing and you're getting the emotion, but you can work through it and then share the lesson afterwards, like that's so powerful.
I'm usually a huge mess after something crazy has happened in our life. I'm like, I can't even talk without crying right now. So I'm not going to like go live and share this with people. But I do want to remember, and after I've come out the other side, think about the lessons that I learned. And that's what I ultimately want to share with people. Like, hey, we went through this really hard thing and it was not fun and it was tough for us, but this is what we learned after.
Yes.
You know, these are the things that we had to talk about. These are the things that we wanted to share with you in case you're going through something similar, you know, but it's like everyone wants to do the crazy thing and like have their videos go viral. So they're like, oh, well, let me jump on and talk about this thing that I just went through. And it's like, well, that could be a good thing, but it also could be a really bad thing.
I have this comparison for it that I came up with a couple weeks ago because my husband and I have been talking a lot about authenticity, transparency, vulnerability, when it's the right time for those. Is it ever the right time as a leader? And we came up with this idea that, okay, so you know when you take a before picture and it's like, okay, I'm going to take my before picture and I feel kind of fat and I'm hoping that a month from now I'm going to take my after picture and it's great. If you post your before photo without the after photo and the after result, that's just a really bad photo. And so that's how we came up with the idea of the rules for when it's okay to share vulnerability. That before photo is vulnerable, but it's also kind of dangerous and not helping anyone if you do not have the after photo. So I kind of like that idea of like, you have to come out on the other side, good or bad, and share the lesson that was learned along the way. Otherwise, it's just a bad photo.
Yeah, so, I love that.
That is such a great way to look at it.
Thank you.
A great way to look at it because you're waiting until you've gone through it to be able to have some of those realizations, those aha moments. Because otherwise, you're just sharing stuff that you don't even know what's gonna come of it.
Well, I was gonna say too, and one of the times we see it's related when people say, you know, you only have to be one step ahead of people. And I think there's some truth to that, but part of it is if you're only one step ahead, but there's danger at step 2 and step 3, and you haven't done that yet, you have the best intention, but you just haven't gotten far enough to lead them. And I think it's the same way there. Like if you're showing them the vulnerability, but you haven't got to the other side to learn the lesson, you're actually maybe hurting them more rather than taking them through the other side and helping them get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah, I love that because, you know, we think about Catch Me If You Can and that movie. I love that lesson, but it's really close to fraud. Yeah. And a lot of coaches dance really close to fraud. Yeah. And I know a ton of people, they were asking me for a long time, can you please launch this like massive mastermind for agency owners, how to scale to 7 or 8 figures? And I was like, I can't because I haven't done that journey myself yet. And we hit a lot of really hard roadblocks switching from freelancer solopreneur to, or I guess freelancer with a team, superpreneur, I like to call it, into agency. It was like, oh my gosh, I did not expect that to be a major issue. And honestly, I wouldn't want to teach someone how to get to a 7 or 8 figure agency until not only have we done it, but now we've created a process around how to avoid this or whatever. But Catch Me If You Can is like a step away from fraud.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the big things that, you know, I think all of us entrepreneurs learn is that, you know, there are going to be those points along the way. And I think one of the biggest things for us all to learn is that you're going to hit certain points, but then there's going to be new challenges that come along to the other side.
Yep.
So I think when people think that they've gotten to the top and that's all there is, whether it's from where they want to go or the challenges they faced, that's where a lot of us get in trouble.
Yep.
So just realizing that it is that journey. We're all on it. We're all at different points. And then the best way to be able to help people is to truly do it yourself and make sure that you really know what you're doing before you take them down there, because otherwise really dangerous if there's points along the way that you haven't necessarily done and you can't help them through.
Yeah. It's kind of scary, isn't it, to think about? You could be not just leading yourself into danger, but a lot of people. So kind of crazy, but I love that.
I love that. All right. So I think after this, there's going to be a lot of people who want to find you, Rachel. So where is the best place for them to reach out and connect?
Ooh, it's really easy. Everything that you would ever possibly want to know about me is on my website, rachelpedersen.com, all E's and a D in my last name. One thing that's actually, I want to share this because I know you guys are big on this. Do you remember how for so long everyone was talking about branding, websites, logos, blah, 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 all the stuff that really doesn't matter in the beginning?
Yeah.
I just want to say that as we're recording this, I'm going through the process of finally getting a website built. I want it to be so clear. You did not need a nice website to get to 7 figures in revenue. Like that is it's so funny to me. I resisted the temptation. I had people trying to shame me into getting a new website, but maybe by the time you visit my new website, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to have everything that I've ever dreamed.
I love the fact that you brought that up because I've actually used you as an example with multiple people that give me that argument. And I'm like, look, this can come, sure, it can be helpful, but early on, most people get distracted by all of that stuff. And it's like, listen, it can be a critical component, but it's not needed. And for more people, they end up spending too much time on that and not enough on validating the business model, actually making sales, actually delivering, like all of those things. So you've been my example for just anyone that wants to argue.
Well, you can even say she had $1 million in revenue and now has 2 businesses that are going to do several million this year, which is crazy. And now she's getting a website. And you know what? I got a steal of a deal. It was $700. I'm so excited about it because I was like, I'm not going to spend $5,000. I know that that's not a crucial part of my business model. Relationship investing is way better. I'd rather put that $5,000 into a team retreat, something where we're building relationship. Or I'm just cheap, whatever.
I love it.
All right, you guys, it has been another great episode with Tom and Ariana, your hosts and lifestyle builders. And we want to extend a very special thank you to our guest, Rachel, just for coming on and sharing all the wisdom and being fun and dropping the truth bombs. So thank you, Rachel, so much for coming on with us today.
Thanks, Tom and Ariana, for having me. It is always a pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. And I want you guys to remember, it's your life, your business, your way. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Are you frustrated by a lack of momentum in your business? Do you want real-time guidance and support from seasoned entrepreneurs who really care about your results? If you're nodding your head or awkwardly shouting yes in public somewhere, then we invite you to join Lifestyle Builders, a mentorship program designed to meet you where you are and give you strategic and custom guidance so you can build the business you need for the life you crave. You can find out more at joinlifestylebuilders.com.
Your life, your business, your way. Join Family Entrepreneur Life. Join Family Entrepreneur Life.